When recording customer payments or other transactions for accounting that don't require any further processing or printing, these can be entered through the Accounts Receivable module. Easily match payments and credits to outstanding invoices and investigate historical transactions. In the Accounts Receivables module, the Open Accounts tab has a grid that displays only customers with a non-zero balance outstanding, and columns with aged summary amounts by document date for various date ranges. The Reports tab gives you access to accounts receivable reports, such as aged or historical receivables, or accounts receivable ledger reports, such as customer transactions or payments. From this module, you can create a new customer transaction, either from the plus toolbar button or when editing the customer accounts receivable. There are some differences in what you can do depending on which way you start. Or alternatively, you can create a deposit batch of payments for multiple customers at once to either enter checks or generate an electronic fund transfer file for pre-authorized debits for uploading to your bank. When you edit a customer accounts receivable record, you can see specific information about the customer, including the contact as assigned in company settings, and certain statistics relevant to payments. You can open the customer record to see everything in a separate window. At the bottom is the list of outstanding transactions, displaying their respective outstanding balance and other information. You can also view or edit communications for accounts receivable, which are separate from customer communications, for notes or warnings about customer transactions, and user-defined fields to store additional information for accounts receivable that is not already available. There are many customer transaction types that you can create from here. From the New button, you can either choose the specific transaction type from this pop-up list, or just click the button and choose the type later. Creating a new transaction within the accounts receivable record restricts entry to this customer, and choosing the type from the pop-up restricts changing the type as well. The most common transactions entered within accounts receivable are payments and invoices not generated from sales orders. For invoices, you only need to enter the transaction date and any other identifying information. The terms code from the customer determines the due date and any early payment discounts, and this can be changed. The revenue account is not displayed here, and it comes from either the company settings special revenue account or from the customer if the sales account is allowed to be overridden. A memo field provides a place to enter a description or comment for this invoice. Then in the total field, enter the after-tax amount. The tax value and pre-tax subtotal will be calculated from this, and the tax amount can be modified if a minor correction is necessary. The invoice entry is now ready to be posted, where you can choose to post the invoice directly to the customer and ledger, or if user settings allow, first review the ledger accounting activity and even make changes, such as split the revenue amount across multiple accounts. The other common transactions are payments on invoices, which can be done only when editing the accounts receivable record. These are very easy to create. Just click the checkbox next to each invoice being paid, then click the Payment button to start the entry. If you first wanted to investigate details about invoices that came from sales orders, you can view the invoice and load that information. When entering the payment, enter the payment reference number and indicate if a customer receipt form will be generated. Indicate the payment method for reference only, not to initiate any processing. Choose to pay either the full invoice amount or edit the pay amount to only pay a portion of the invoice. If an invoice has an early payment discount, either from the terms or if you override it here, you can choose to take or remove that discount. If you use job costing, you can assign a job and account number to this invoice. Then you can post the payment and review accounting if allowed. Print or email the customer receipt if requested, and invoice balances are updated on this screen, with fully paid invoices no longer displayed on this open list. You can also record customer payments on account without assigning them to invoices. Create a new transaction and choose the payment type. Enter the amount of the payment and any other required information. Then post the transaction to the customer. In the future, when this payment on account is meant to be assigned to an invoice, you only have to check both of these transactions and then click the Apply button to link them together. Or if payment was applied to the wrong invoice by mistake, you can select the invoice and choose to unapply the payment if user security allows. If you choose to create a new transaction from the plus toolbar button on the list, the customer code will be blank to start with, so that you can enter it or select it here. Exactly as when editing a customer accounts receivable record, you can create any of the transaction types here. This includes both credit and debit memo transactions, which effectively decreases or increases the overall customer balance outstanding and the revenue ledger account, but not a specific invoice balance. Posting a customer credit or debit creates a new outstanding transaction that can be applied to an invoice manually in the same way as unapplied payments. Other customer transactions you could enter and post are service charges, which are typically for fees, such as for bounced checks, and post to a service charge ledger account. And write-offs, which are like credit memos, but post to a bad debt expense ledger account. And either for a specific customer or a group of customers from the accounts receivable list, you can generate finance charges against overdue invoices for all customers configured as allowed, if user security allows you to do so. When a customer has paid invoices in their history, you can choose to reveal them from the Show button, selecting only those from the past year or the entire history. The invoice list will now include invoices no longer outstanding, with the applied credits viewable to expand from either the arrowhead or from the Expand All button. Or you can list all payments instead of invoices by clicking the Show Credits button, and expand applied invoices in the same way. For any rows that have matching transactions, you can use the View History button to not only see how transactions were applied, but also when, which could be multiple times in the case of partial payments. If a posted transaction needs to be reversed, you can select it from the list and then click the Void button if user security allows this. Not only will this reverse the accounting for that transaction, but all paid invoices from voided payments will be restored as outstanding. If a customer has a credit balance to be repaid or require some other rebate or refunded amount, the Refund Check button will create a debit memo transaction and print a check. If you would like more information about Spire Accounting, access the link in the description below to our homepage. Read the online manual help for additional assistance. Watch more videos from this playlist. And subscribe to the Spire YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.